man.
You know, Michael, this is so great. This is so great with you, man. All I'm thinking about now is working out, getting a sweat, getting my mind stronger, my heart better, and believing. We're going to win.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's it's so easy when you read the headlines, and it's so easy when you're stuck in your house, and it's so easy when you keep doing the same thing, and you've got all these things taken away from you as far as being able to just go to the grocery store, being able to visit family. But if you realize that we're going to come out of this better, bigger, faster, stronger, and if we can bulletproof that mind during this time, if we can bulletproof that body, we'll be in a great spot, an even better spot when we're done with this whole thing. So
let's come together.
Yes.
We must love each other, respect each other.
Must come together. We must, and we also must realize that God put us on this earth for relationships. And even though our relationships are taken away from us and are 6 feet of distance, and we can't touch each other, we can't hug each other, we can't shake each other's hand, doesn't mean that the power of the human spirit isn't all about continuing to connect. And that's why I truly am thankful for things like Zoom, FaceTime, text message, emails, and still continuing to connect with my brothers and my sisters, and even people like yourself who I admire, who I've never even got to spend time with you until now. And now something like this happening gives me a great opportunity as a world champion fighter to get up, be in the presence of greatness. So that right there in and of itself is a blessing, and it's something to look forward to. So obviously as a guy who is still currently fighting, and I've won world titles and I've lost world titles. You know, as of right now, I'm a 3-time MMA world champion, and that's all fine and dandy. But the only way that you become a 3-time world champion is that means you have to lose the belt numerous times, right? So I've gone through a lot of ups and a lot of downs. And in my career, it's always easy to win, and it's fun to win. And that's when you get the glitz and the glam, and that's where all the positivity is. But whenever you lose those fights, you only lost a couple, I know, in your professional career, but whenever you lost those fights, what were your 1 or 2 or 3 things that you did mentally, physically, spiritually, to make sure that you didn't go down into the pit of self-doubt and continue to downward spiral after you lost a fight? How did you build yourself back up, and how did you get back into your training, your normal routine, and back into the ring and continue to win fights?
You know, Michael, my first loss was against Roberto Duran as a professional fighter. That was one of the most, if not the most, difficult fight, because Roberto Duran beat me up here. He got into my head. He said things about me that made me angry, and that made me not stay composed during the fight, because you got to be focused. You got to be, I call it tunnel vision. You got to be, just look at your opposition. But he made me so mad. He got into my head, under my skin, that I wanted to beat him at his own game. So in that 15 rounds of hell, throwing punches that were just dynamite at the end of it, I learned a lesson. And what happened after the fight, he took my belt, he took the title, and I'm still emotionally devastated. I go to my room and I let everybody go out. I cry like a baby. I cry like a baby. And I'm not afraid to say this or embarrassed to say this, but I cry like a baby because I knew I could do better. We all can do better. So, but I contemplated retirement. I was going to retire that fight because the punches that Duran hit me with, his power, perpetual motion, I've never hit that hard in quite a while. So I was going to quit. I was going to give it up. 2, 3 days later, 4 days later, my wife and I went on a trip to Hawaii to just kind of, calm down. I'm running on the beach. People say, "Hey, Sugar, you could have won that fight if you had fought your fight, if you did your thing, if you had boxed me." I kept hearing these things. And I called back home. I said, Mike Trainer was my partner and my business manager and my attorney. I said, Mike, I want to fight Duran ASAP. He said, Ray, are you on vacation? I said, yeah. He said, so enjoy your vacation and come home and talk. I said, well, now it just ended. And I went home and we jumped on having the fight, having a rematch. I was so confident in my training, in myself, because it's about, again, Michael, you know this. I mean, you get into that ring, man. If you make a mistake, you can get KO'd, right? I got into the ring. I was so confident. I was so reassured that if I did it my way, I choreographed that fight. And I won that fight, by the way.
Yes. Well, that was the infamous no mas fight, correct?
Yes, it was. Yes.
The 15, was the eighth round. Roberto Duran, manos de piedras, or you know, right? You know, one of the baddest dudes on the planet, the only guy to ever the only guy to dethrone you at that point, turns his back and says, "No mas, I don't want to fight this guy anymore." And I think and I think it's awesome that you answered that question that way, because I was hoping, you know, because I studied this and I studied and that was the thing. And obviously I get that all the time. Oh man, champ, if you would have just done this and done that.
Yes.
And these people who have never fought in their entire life, you get their you hear their criticism. And just knowing that if you just will do your game plan and fight within your strengths, that you can be the victor instead of, so I guess a second question, a spin-off question of that, how did you have the confidence that you weren't going to go right back into the trap of fighting outside of your game plan? Because I think that's what a lot of people do. We plan to fail because we failed to plan. And if you don't have the right game plan going into something, or if you have something taking you out of your game plan, how did you have the confidence that you knew that you weren't going to get stuck right back into the slugfest that is fighting Roberto Duran and fighting within your strengths?
Well, that's another good question, because it was all about believing in myself, because if I don't, no one else will. And composure is a key. Composure is an essential key in everything, in every aspect of life. To be prepared. And I knew what it took to win. I just had to execute that. And the first thing that took place was the fact that I didn't back down. There was no expression, no facial expression of being angry. You know, because anger is good, but anger can also, if it's too much, things are not smooth. Things, you know, and I used my jab and I moved around. I used my height, I used my reach, I used my speed. And all of a sudden, people started laughing because I was doing this and I was doing the pole punch. And he couldn't take it. He just couldn't, because it wasn't like the first fight. I wasn't a stationary target. I'm starting to sweat now talking about this fight. It's so it's so surreal right now. It seems so like I can smell his breath right now. That's how close. We're definitely friends and respectful, like Tommy Hearns and Hagler. Well, not Hagler yet.
Yeah, it's so great, and I think you hit the nail on the head with composure. Just as we talked about, to bring it back to coronavirus, COVID, quarantine, let's also focus on composure. Right now, when this was thrown at us, nobody knew 4 or 5 weeks ago that all of a sudden the whole world would be shut down. Nobody knew that everybody would be losing their jobs. Nobody knew that a lot of people's jobs their heads would be on the chopping block at their jobs and the economy would be shut down. But if we can keep our composure for long enough during this and continue to connect, that's another word, connect, that on the other end of this, we can keep our composure. And even when we're down in those late rounds, focus on a little bit of defense, a little bit of hand washing, a little bit of distancing, but still connect. We can have awesome opportunities like this. I don't think, I just want you and your viewers to know, as a young fighter, I'm 33 years old, but ever since I was a middle schooler, watching your fights, hopping on YouTube and watching your fights and saying, man, I want to someday be that fast. I want to someday have that kind of footwork. When I take my talents into the cage, I want to have this like Sugar Ray Leonard. So in a worldwide pandemic time like this, where I'm confined to my garage and a Zoom call, and thank God I have a Wi-Fi connection, that I can have one of the coolest interactions of my entire life. I think that's saying something, and I just appreciate you. Everything you've done inside the ring, everything you have done and will do outside of the ring. And I think I speak for millions and millions of people that say you are an inspiration.
I just want to tell everyone who's watching to hang in there. This is a fight, and a fight we can win. Be safe, be smart, and thank God for it.
Absolutely. This is like in those late rounds, whenever you put it on them, You put it on him for the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and he keeps coming and he keeps coming. You know, you gotta not just always keep your foot on the gas. Sometimes you have to be smart. Sometimes you have to rope-a-dope a little bit. Sometimes you have to go more defense than you do offense. And I think for us as fighters, we're always thinking about coming forward. As Americans especially, we're always thinking about striving and building and acquiring. What if right now is the right moment to recharge, to set you up for the biggest comeback and the biggest platform of your life? There's a big difference between laziness and rest, and there's a big difference between slothfulness and peacefulness. So even in the fight, be peaceful in your mind, be peaceful and calm in your demeanor, and know that when this thing gets done and this thing gets lifted, us fighters are going to come out swinging. We're going to go on and get after it.
You know, I talk about having power, which is an eminent for prepare, overcome, win every round. And it's about having defense, protecting yourself, washing your hands all the time. I've washed my hands so many times, and it becomes natural now. Try not to touch your face, which is hard because we do it so naturally. But and help someone else out. How about that? Help someone else out.
Yeah, exactly. Inspire. Use this time. Use this time to be a light, to be a voice. So many people underestimate because I'm sure you get asked all the time, or you get looked at differently. You're one of the greatest boxers to ever. One of the greatest athletes, one of the greatest American athletes of all time. So, of course, Sugar Ray Leonard has a voice, and Sugar Ray Leonard can make an impact. But people don't understand that just by being a good mother or father or brother or sister or employee or business owner, just by being you, just by being exactly your DNA, your exact genetic makeup, just by being you, you can make a difference in this world. Whether it be sending a text message today of encouraging someone, reaching out to that guy or gal that you've been neglecting, and you want to reach out to them because you know they're going through a tough time through this, and you want to inspire them. Right now is the time where we can lift each other up. Right now is the time where we can continue to build our bodies, build our minds, and build our spirits, even during a worldwide pandemic.
And you know what, Michael? One last thing. I want to say that, you know, I've made an impact in the ring, a tremendous impact in the ring, but I want to make an impact, even a larger impact outside the ring, especially with this coronavirus. I mean, this is something, again, I keep being redundant, but I must say it again. This is a fight we can win. This is a fight we must win. This is a fight we will win together.
Absolutely. And I'm glad to be in this fight with you and every single other person in the world to show, I think it's just to show the universe, to show our Lord and Savior, to show whoever it is that you believe in, that the human spirit is so much stronger than we give it credit for. When we wake up every single morning and thank whoever it is that you thank for another day, that this human spirit cannot be broken. And a little virus is not going to break our human spirit.
How are you, man? Hey, get the fight.